They call me Squirrel.
What's going on? How we doing, Squirrel Squad? It is the Squirrel. I am back, and my buddy David sent this over to me. This is a 5-part series called Tower of London, and this is the Beefeaters. I believe, this is what I believe because I do not know. I believe the Beefeaters do tours of historic buildings and teach history and try to make it engaging and fun. That's what I believe Beefeaters do. That's just my understanding of what they do as sloppy American who knows no different. So I'm going to find out if that's right or not. David thought this would be interesting to watch because it's good history. It's good, something good to learn from. So I think that I agree. So hit the subscription button if you're new because we're about to watch the Beefeaters, man. You don't want to miss out when I do part 2, 3, 4, and 5, do you? Yeah, I didn't think so. All right, here we go. Buckle up. It's Beefeater time.
So get closer.
Get closer.
That was a
Get
test
in here,
of
let's
English.
go.
You step back. What's going on? Don't you speak English? Yeah, you do? Get closer. Closer. But the tour is given in English. If you're struggling with the concept of closer, it might be beyond your mental grasp. Will you get closer? We need two things here. We need to stay close so I don't have to shout, and we need to move quickly so I've got more time to tell you things. Got it?
Got it.
Got it. Good.
I have a feeling this guy's going to be shouting either way. I already just have this feeling that he's a shouter. But hey, I could be wrong. Maybe he's going to turn into a soft, gentle-spoken man. Who knows?
Now get closer, quickly. Come on.
I see you.
Obviously pre-COVID.
Can you see up my nose? You should be able to see as far as the snot. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Yes, welcome to Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. I'm Yeoman Warder Bill Callahan, and for the next hour or so, I'm going to be your guide. Together, we are going to tour the tower. I'm going to point out some of the famous buildings and structures. You're going to look at them. Then I'm going to bore you to death with their history. Sound like a plan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. History of the Tower of London is a long one. It's not the history that you covered in school. That was written by people who were never there. You're now going to get history coloured in with Yeoman Warder folklore. Stories from men that were there. Men who saw. Or knew somebody who possibly saw what went on. Now, isn't that exciting?
Yes.
I'm glad one or two of you think so. Tower of London has been a palace and fortress here for nearly 1,000 years. A palace and fortress. What is it?
Palace and fortress.
Good, I'm glad you've got that on board. At no point then did I mention the word prison. It was never a prison. It was always a palace and fortress. Unofficially, we did have 3,500 prisoners here. Many people think that's all the Tower of London is. They're wrong. Many people think all our prisoners were executed. They're wrong. We only executed 363. It's not that bad. It's about 1 in 10. It's obviously bad if you're that one. Yes, I accept that. But as a ratio, I understand it's better than the current state of Texas. So let's keep a sense of proportion here. Executions and prisoners are a very small part of the Tower's history. I'll get those out of the way now. This is the best place to talk about them. You see, contrary to popular belief, very few people were executed inside the town. Only about a dozen or so. The majority of executions took place outside, and 120 beheadings took place up there on Tower Hill. Now, on execution day, there'd be thousands of bloodthirsty people.
So if they beheaded people on top of the hill, I got a theory. And maybe I'm wrong. Okay, I'm probably wrong. But what if the whole cheese rolling thing came from people trying to grab the heads as they... Anyway.
Not unlike yourselves, gathered round a raised wooden platform. The platform would be covered with straw, and the straw was there to absorb the blood. You know this. Amidst the straw would stand a man clad in leather. A leather mask would cover half his face. This fellow was, of course, the executioner. And the tools of his trade were a block of oak and a large axe. Something you might
That's all you
not
really
know
need.
is that the condemned man would shake hands with his executioner and pass him a purse of gold and silver coins. Now, there was some religious significance to this. It was to show you could not take your earthly treasures into the afterlife. There was a more practical value. The heavier your purse, the less you suffered. This was the way the executioner got paid. Now, I can go into great detail about an execution.
Wow.
It's about what you want to hear. All executions are bad. Someone ends up dead. Do you want to hear about a bad execution? Or would you like to hear about a really bad execution?
I can't believe you have to pay your killer to kill you. That is like, so yeah, your family doesn't get the gold and the silver. Nope. You got to give it to the guy who's going to take your life. Ain't that something, huh?
Really
My hands in the air for really bad. I need to see this. I just want you. You all know what you're asking for, right? Well, James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, famously refused to pay his executioner. His executioner, Jack Ketch, got grumpy. And when James Scott stretched his neck across his block of oak, Jack Ketch brought his axe crashing down. Whack! Right through James Scott's left shoulder. Oh, no, don't go squeamish now. You asked for this. We know this detail because there were recorders, people whose job it was to write down and draw everything they saw and heard. They were close enough to the bones crunch as the axe passed through. They noted that after the 5th stroke of the axe, James Scott fell silent. 5 blows of the axe while he was conscious. A further 3 strokes, the head was still attached. In the end, Jack Ketch took out his butcher's carving knife and had to hack through the last bits of flesh, bone and gristle. But at last, the head was off. It was then impaled on a soldier's pike and paraded through the streets of London. Left on London Bridge as a warning to other would-be traitors, and it also served as an early form of bird feeder.
No.
So it was environmentally friendly. Meanwhile, the headless corpse was brought back inside the fortress for burial in our chapel. But as I said at the beginning, executions are a small part of the tower's history. I don't even like talking about them. So
You could have fooled
passion
me.
here is medieval defensive architecture. And I'm glad yours is too. I'd like you to look this way for a moment. That way, go on.
I know that I'm probably in the minority here. And I know that it's barbaric and everything else. I get it. But sometimes I think to myself, maybe we'd all get along a little better and the world would be a little bit better place if we didn't have governments who constantly let repeat offenders out onto the streets. We got to keep the jails empty. We got to keep letting these people out on the streets, and people are suffering because they have to deal with these same criminals over and over. Let's go back to the hangman and the executioner. You know, it's tough to imagine, but it's possible. No, it's not possible. But I think it would make people think twice, you know, instead of I'm just going to do 3 months and then I'll be out.
Come on, that's longer than a moment. Look back now. I can't stop looking that way. Gosh, she was nice, wasn't she? Yeah, right, that was the moat. It's wider than most people expect because this is not Disneyland. This is a real palace and fortress. That's a real defensive line. The moat is 40 metres across, further than an archer could shoot accurately. I know what you're thinking now. Kevin Costner and Errol Flynn can shoot an arrow, and 3 miles later some poor sap gets it here. Disavow yourself of this notion.
It's true.
Robin Hood wasn't even that accurate. War archery was certainly not that accurate. British archers were famous, of course, and feared, but not for accuracy. They were famous for volume. They fought in companies. Companies of British archers would turn the sun black with their arrows, would rain death on the enemy. And this is what destroyed the French at Crécy and Agincourt. Right, don't get triumphalist, it was a long time ago. We're all great friends now. Now,
Yeah, right.
The tidal flow of the River Thames
let's say that France and England aren't friends, but it's pretty funny. It's some of the comments that I get. And of course, Mickey has tainted my vision.
would flood in and about. This kept the moat clean. Clever? Not really. No, low tide, you see, the moat dried out. The enemy could just run across. It's a complete waste of time. So in 1381, we employed a consultant. Yeah, we had him in those days. Yeah, a Dutch engineer by the name of Master Walter came over, did what all consultants do, took a barrow load of money and left us with a sentence. Dig the moat deeper than the riverbed.
Yeah, I was just going to say
It will
that.
never fully drain and always present an obstacle. Why we didn't think of that, I don't know. But that's what we did. Clever?
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Secondary function of the moat was that of toilet.
Oh.
There were 2,500 people living inside the fortress and tens of thousands around the outside. Every one of these people, most of them more than once a day, added to the contents of the moat. Now you do know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah. It doesn't always float. Right? Not unless you have a high fibre diet, which really wasn't on the medieval menu. No. At low tide, this became nothing more than a mire of raw human poo. Now, there were carcasses from the meat market at Smithfield. Plague victims were tossed in there. We had everything in the moat. Typhoid, anthrax, plague, polar bears. It's true. How many of you knew that the Tower of London was the first zoo in Britain? Yeah. The heads of state of foreign lands gave us gifts of exotic animals. Basically, they got rid of their unwanted pets and gave them to us. Lions, tigers, bears.
Come on.
Yeah, the polar bears were a present from King Olaf of Norway, allowed to swim in the moat to catch fish. It wasn't all they caught cholera and died. Now, as a toilet, the moat was a failure. But as a line of defence, come on, it was superb. But it stank. And this is a royal palace. You don't put up with a smell like that in a royal palace for very long. So, a mere 500 years later, the moat was finally drained, filled in and laid to lawn. But look how lush and green.
Yeah, fertilized like hell.
Beautiful.
That's great.
Now, the outer wall was built in the 1280s. There are 6 towers to the south. These defend us against any attack that might come from up the river. The Byward Tower is one of them, but it's unique. This is the only landward entry into the fortress. And as we go through the archway, look up. You will see the spikes of a portcullis. That's a drop gate. The drop gate weighs 1.5 tons, and it dates from 1286. So does the rope, which holds it up. So we're going to go through there rather quickly. Come on. Chop, chop. Chop, chop. You know. Chop. I don't know why I bothered. Come on.
All right, so that was the Beefeater doing the tours of the tower. That was part 1. I'm interested to continue to learn about the history of the tower as we go on with parts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Whenever I speckle them in, you know, it'll be a speckle. I'll just kind of just throw them in there. So thanks, David, man. I appreciate it, bro. I appreciate you turning me on to this and letting me know about it. And it was good. I actually learned quite a bit there, so that's pretty neat. That was quite the poopy moat. The moat's gross. Really gross. Anyways, folks, I appreciate you being here tonight. I always appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Hope you guys take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt.